One of the most recognizable sounds in 80s throwback music in recent years is the electric guitar tone from the 1975. Now the big question is, can you replicate that sound using not the most expensive guitar and using a virtual amp inside of your DAW? Well, listen to this and you tell me. I'm in love with you. Yeah, I'm in love with you. Yeah, I'm in love with you. So what you just heard, there's no mic, there's no real guitar amp. I'm only using, direct input into my interface using my Fender standard Telecaster, Fender's cheapest line of guitars, by the way, and I'm using a couple basic effects as well. So if you're trying to achieve this electric guitar sound, you've come to the right place, because I'm going to show you how to do it. Let's dive in. All right, so here are all our electric guitar tracks in this session, in this remake. Everything in purple is my electric guitar tracks. Now, some of these are duplicates of the same track, or what's called, in essence, parallel processing, like this one here and this one here. It's a duplicate, but I have, different effects on the parallel or duplicated versions, and we will dive into those. And then I have these extra tracks as well, which we will get into. But first, let's look at the most important electric guitar track in this arrangement, and that is, of course, that lead sound that you hear. Heartbeat. Now, as far as playing this guitar part itself, if you're a electric guitar player, you probably think this is a very basic riff, because it is. And one key thing that I did with this performance is I used my fingers instead of a pick. So I'm on the G and B strings and I'm plucking rather than using a pick. And that is what gives you that staccato pluck type of sound, right? That's what allows for that sound to really cut through and give it that feel. That is exactly what we need for this type of song. But now that you have a good guitar part, I'm going to assume that, how do you actually take that sound and make it sound more like a 1975 guitar part? I'm going to show you how to do it. So let's dive into now some of the plugins and just the chain and everything that I did to come up with this sound. So let's start at the very beginning. Let's turn everything off. Here is what this electric guitar track sounds like before anything goes into it. This is DI, the most basic sound. And now, the first thing I ran it through is my GTR tool rack. This is a fairly inexpensive plugin from Waves, and you can use any. I use Studio One's Ampire sometimes, and your DAW might even have a stock virtual amp that sounds really good. So the first thing I did is I just browsed through some presets, and I wanted to find some type of sound that had a chorusy 80s type of feel to it, right? And then once I found one that was pretty close, I came into the pedals here and I adjusted some of the things. So one of the things I remember I adjusted that is different from the preset was this doubler pedal here. It was a bit too much of it, so I just dialed that back. I think I may have adjusted the delay. I dialed the chorus back a little bit, so it's not quite as much of that sound, because you need less chorus, you need less doubler usually than you think you do. And so, yeah, but still at this point, it's a very basic. Let me actually come in here real quick and let's go one by one so you can really hear what these effects are doing. So there, it's just using this amp here, and I made some adjustments here, but it's very basic stuff. And then it's running through these pedals, starting with the chorus, and then some delay, and then this doubler, and this nice little tone EQ pedal with a boost, especially in the mid-range, to give us some nice body. And then a bit of reverb here. And then this as well. And again, most of these, I think all of these actually were present in the preset. I just adjusted and moved some knobs around to kind of dial in the tone that I thought sounded good in the context of the mix. And that's it. Like, that is all that's happening here with this virtual amp. And then everything beyond that is just to kind of lock the sound in. We already have the majority of this sound, because if we play this, heartbeat, right, the core sound is already there. Now, the next few things that I added here, the next thing was a compressor. This is a tube compressor in Studio One. So that's, just to add a nice bite to it. Now, the next plugin does have a pretty recognizable effect on this tone, and that is the red light distortion plugin. This is a stock plugin again. Your DAW probably has a stock plugin that sounds pretty good when it comes to distortion. And isn't that nice? Oh, it's so cool. I love this plugin. Gives us a bit more brightness, gives us a little bit of that tube crunch that I love. And so I threw that on it. And then just to play around, I messed around with Tricomp, which is kind of like Studio One's version of an OTT, except it sounds way better, especially, you know, if you want to get sophisticated with it and you want to use it in a real noticeable way, then Tricomp is a great plugin for that. And it's just a version of a compressor. And finally, to wrap it up, I just put some EQ on here. I was hearing a little bit of some ringing, I think, in this range. Yeah, something like that. I think that may have been one of those low strings that accidentally was ringing out. So I just notched it out using a very narrow EQ on that frequency. And then I wanted a bit more boost up in this 2K range, just to make it fit better in the mix. And so all of these things culminate and come together to create the sound we're looking for. But what I want to make sure that you're aware of is, let's go back again to, like, the majority of the sound comes from just the guitar going through this GTR tool rack, this virtual amp, and with these pedals. Everything else is just kind of icing. It's kind of sculpting it and kind of making it fit a little better in the mix. And it's just kind of playing around with some things. So don't try to necessarily copy that. Just get the sound 90% of the way there as quickly as you can. And then from there, it's just up to you to just throw anything against the wall and, you know, just tweak and make some adjustments and do whatever sounds good to you. Don't overthink it. Start again and try to get it as close as you can to a really nice finished result without having to add all those last 5 plugins. Because again, I can delete most of these and it still sounds pretty good. So now let's just move on over real quick to a couple effects that I have on here still. On this electric guitar track, I'm sending this to 2 return tracks that I have set up here on effects channels or return tracks, and that is a slap delay and a plate reverb. Now, I'm using this plate reverb and this slap delay for other tracks in this mix as well, which is really cool because it allows me to use one instance and use it in a multi-purposeful way. So I lost my guitar track. Where are we? Okay, here we go. So when we add in the slap delay, it sounds like this. Just a nice sound, right? And then we add a plate reverb. Again, these were effects I had already had set up in my session. And this is just a plate reverb, pretty short, pretty basic. You know, I have some EQ on it to customize that sound. And then the slap delay is a basic slap delay, you know, slightly offset left and right, nice stereo sound, and nothing crazy happening there. So you add it all up, and then this is the sound that you have. Feel like I can loosen my legs, like a summer light. Turn it up so you can hear it. It's simple and it goes like this. I'm in love with you. I'm in love with you. So that is the main electric guitar part. Now you may be wondering, what are all these other ones? I know I mentioned those earlier, but I haven't talked through them at all yet. So let me just very quickly explain the logic and my reasoning behind why these other tracks exist here. So this electric guitar parallel track sounds like this. And all this is I wanted, because this initial electric guitar track, I wanted it panned to the left. And here we have, it's not all the way left, it's at like 40 left, as you can see here. Right? Maybe I even go a little bit more. And then what I wanted to do is offset that and have something on the right side of the speakers, and like a delayed sound I thought would sound really good. I tried it out and I really liked the way it sounded. So my process here is just, I literally duplicated the exact guitar track here. So this is the exact same track. I bounced it. So all the plugins that were on here, I bounced it to audio. So the GTR tool rack, all these plugins are now baked into this track. And then once that was completed, I went ahead and added a delay plugin with just a very short delay. So 69 milliseconds with 0 feedback. So it's kind of just like a slapback delay, and then I pan that almost all the way to the right. That way you hear this on the left, and then with a slight delay on the right side, right? Now, would have I had to do this? We already have slap delay being sent, through on that return track, on this main one. I don't really care. I just, it doesn't have to necessarily make sense, but it has to sound good, right? And that is really what matters. And so I'm just showing you kind of what my process was and how I ended up creating this. And then one more thing I did is I created another parallel track. I did the same thing. I duplicated the initial track, and then I again bounced down the effects that were on there, including the virtual amp and everything. And then what I really wanted to do is bring out the high end and saturate the high end. That way, when that chorus hits, it doesn't get too lost in the mix. Because here's what was happening. That electric guitar track was getting a bit lost when we got to the bigger part of the song, which was the chorus. And it goes like this, I'm in love with you. Yeah, I'm in love with... Right, as the song gets louder, it gets a little bit lost. And now you could say, why didn't you just turn up the volume? And that's fair, but I thought that the lows and the mids of this electric guitar were fine. And what I wanted to hear was just like some crispiness to cut through. I didn't need more low end on those guitars. I didn't need more mid range. I just wanted to hear it cut through. I wanted some sparkle on it. And so what I did is created a duplicated track of that original electric guitar, which gives us another parallel track here. And then I went in and added, what's the first thing I did here? Let's just walk through this chain real quick. So I added an EQ, and I did a crazy boost up in the high frequency. So this is a high shelf boost. Literally, if you were to look at that on this EQ, it looks something like something crazy here. There it is. It looks something like this, right? Something really crazy. That is what that EQ is doing here with this analog style EQ. 16 dB boost, doing that shelf boost all the way at the top. And that is creating this sound initially. And then what I did is I wanted to run through. So we're focusing in on high end here. We're just trying to really get that sparkle and get that really crispy high end. That way we can layer it in as a parallel track to that original electric guitar track. So this is like a saturated kind of high frequency plugin here, or at least if you use the color knob, which is what I'm using in this case. Here with the Sausage Fattener plugin. Here's without that. Again, just adding some nice crispiness, and then take it one step further, add in saturation knob. Again. Now that does raise the volume as well, but it's still adding some more crispiness. And then what I did is I didn't care about the low end for this parallel track. We're only focusing on boosting the highs when this chorus hits. And so it sounds like this now, with all the low end rolled off. And that is what is going to help this guitar track cut through. And then I ended up sending this parallel track to the same plate reverb that we are sending a lot of other things to. So listen to what it sounds like here with just the first bass line electric guitar. And then if we add this crispy one. See that? And then that helps it stand out in the mix when the chorus hits. So that is exactly what I did there. It sounds pretty good. And here we go. I'm in love with you. I'm in love with you. All right, and then just very quickly, let me just walk you through what I did here. This was a track on the right that's just doing this. It's coming in so strong. Literally just doing that. And I think I just used a different, it's GTR tool rack again. And I guess I ended up using the same preset, which is not recommended. That was my error, but it doesn't really matter in this case, to be honest with you. It's a guitar track on the right to kind of offset the one on the left. And I just forgot to really dial it in because it's not a primary track, so it doesn't really matter. So you can get away with making mistakes like that, and I don't care that that's a mistake because it doesn't affect the quality of this mix. And then finally, we have just a couple power chord tracks that I wanted to help give the chorus a boost, and it's very simple. So just some drive on these tracks, 2 takes, one pan hard left, the other pan hard right, pretty basic stuff. And then, I did use different presets, I think, for these too. Using the GTR tool rack. And that is the electric guitar arrangement to create this sound on this 1975 remake. Goes like this, I'm in love with you. Yeah, I'm in love with you. Yeah, I'm in love with you. Yeah, I'm in love with you. I'm in love with you. All right, my friend, now before you go, if you want to learn more about creating indie music like the 1975 or like your favorite indie artists do, that is the niche I'm in. That is what I teach you to do here at the Indie Music Lab. And if that's what you're interested in, then I've got a great gift for you. It's my 7 steps to a killer indie song. This walks you through the entire process of coming up with the idea, writing it, producing it, mixing it, getting it done and this will give you the framework to finally finish your songs so that you can get past, having 150 unfinished tracks without ever getting anything done. And this will give you a framework and an understanding of what you need to do to take a song from start to finish so that you can actually get your songs done and so that you can keep making great music and improve your skills, because that is the best way to improve your skills, is getting your songs done and completing the process, taking your song from step 1 all the way through step 7. So I'll leave a link in the description below for that. Be sure to check that out, and I will see you in the next video. Have a great day.